So this video is going to serve twofold purposes. One will be just a breakdown of Jeremy Sochan's defense, as he is one of the best defensive prospects in this class. And the other is just kind of going to be like a live scout. So we're going to go through all of the relevant defensive clips for Sochan's evaluation in two games, this one and the one against Oklahoma. It's not like literally every clip, because I don't want to make an hour-long video, but it's most of the relevant clips. So this is watching defense and evaluating defense can be hard, and I'm certainly not perfect, but here is my process and kind of how we do it. So we start off with just a trait of Sochan's that I think immediately pops is the versatility. At least at the college level. I have questions about his NBA level versatility, which we'll get to, but like he is able to play up on guards a lot of the time, able to really bother bigs like David McCormack. Here you see him dropping, very physical, extremely physical with his kind of fighting in the post here, and then he slides over to stop the drive. The interior defense is just so impressive with Sochan. He is constantly like looking to cut off driving angles early, and that is a really rare trait for someone that young and with his level of tools, and it is going to allow him to be an impressive rim deterrent at the NBA level, which is super valuable. Again, we get into more Sochan here. He is defending the corner, and this play is an example of his great hands. His hands are amazing. He's uses the length great. His timing is awesome. He's able to swipe passes and now blocks that a lot of players can't just because they require really precise timing. But a critical point of watching defense is understanding scheme. And Baylor funnels their defenders baseline into the help. And this will be important on other plays. We can see an example of this where just like the way Sochan's defending Agbaji here, he's not straight on. He is to his side, and that is because he's funneling him into the help, which he does here. Again, you see the timing for the deflection here as well. And I really like this play because it's against like an NBA style action. We have like an Agbaji Iverson cut into like a horn screen type of play. And like this is like a very NBA role kind of thing where he's guarding a wing size player in Jalen Wilson, and he's going to be able to stay attached to the screen and get a deflection there. So just really impressive off-ball defense already we're seeing. And this was a very strong defensive game just generally from Sochan. So I think like you have to be able to pair your instincts and your tools. I talk about functional tools a lot. Just because you are a super crazy athlete, if you don't have the ability to apply them, whether with skills or IQ or whatever, in a functional way, in a way that matters on the basketball court, like it doesn't matter if like the greatest leaper in the world can't dribble or like jump from different angles. Like it doesn't matter. And Sochan, he pairs his instincts with great tools. Like his size are awesome. I wish he was a little quicker off the ground, which we'll get to, but look how early he is. Sochan is already in position to help, like before his defender even is funneling in. And again, part of this is certainly scheme, but Sochan is like a beautiful executor of scheme, which is something that he will have to do in the NBA. Like I've compared Sochan's movement and just a lot of his stuff to Deni Avdija, who Wizards. The difference being that Sochan is going to be able to act on his instincts. Again, Deni is going to be super early on this rotation to snuff out this layup, but it just isn't physically impressive to really make a difference on contests, and that issue is kind of pertained and persisted in the league, where even if he sees the rotation, he is not able to impact with a strong contest. And again, as we're going to see here, that is just not an issue for Sochan, as he is so good at using that length. Again, the timing is perfect. He's able to swat this ball. You can see, again, another example here of the load time being a little excessive. Watch how he kind of like bends his knees and swings his arm like before he goes up with this ball. We'll go like frame by frame here, as you can kind of see him like really loading up there to jump. And because Dajuan Harris can't really jump and this is like a low kind of shot, he's able to use his timing, but that is definitely an issue for his like high end rim protection. So I don't think he's going to be like an elite off ball rim protector because of those lacking of vertical tools, but it's definitely going to be value. So because of the like the funneling and the Baylor scheme, it's important to like kind of look for instances where the scheme breaks, like this where Sochan is just isolated on an island against a guard. He does a pretty good job. Like I think Sochan is going to be kind of like a pest kind of defender, like more Grant Williams and like a real like footsie switch defender, because you can see his hips are moving kind of slow. Like he does not turn quickly, but because of how long he is, because he has refined technique, because he's physical and able to bother guards' handles, like he's going to be able to be disruptive. But as we're going to see like a lot later, he certainly isn't like a switch defender. I think like I've often seen like Sochan like build as like a 1 through 5 kind of defender. Like a lot of guys get unfairly billed as that. My pal PD did a good tweet. Like these guys don't exist. Like there's maybe like one or two 1 through 5 defenders in the league at any given time, maybe even less. And there's a difference between being able to do it consistently and being able to survive. I think Sochan is like a 3.5 through 4.5 kind of defender. Positionally, where he can maybe survive a little bit down, as we'll see later, but Sochan is more like an interior defender. That's just a little off topic, but we're going to continue to get into it. And again, I mean, this is like potentially like a motor thing. You can see the kind of vertical limitations where Sochan like has to take a hop, and then he's kind of slow getting into this jump, and by the time he's in the air, like he's not going to be able to block this without goaltending. So that's just kind of an example of like the vertical limitation, which is going to matter at times, even if it's not going to be like a thing that really kills him. Again, just like the awareness and the reaction speed on interior rotations is really special. So like Kansas is sealing him off all game, making life really hard for him when he's guarding the big. And Ochai Agbaji makes a great pass to a cutting Christian Brown. So let's just like look at a couple of frames here. Oops, we went back to the beginning. That is not what I meant to do. It's all right. So just take a look at a couple frames here. Here's where Sochan is when Agbaji's releasing the pass. Here's where Sochan is when Brown is catching the pass, and he's able to go fully straight up and down, vertical without fouling, and make a beautiful, beautiful contest. Again, this is kind of, I think, the style of on-ball defense that Sochan is really going to excel at, where it's not just going to be like really checking quick guys, but when he has like a wing like Wilson, who's his size or bigger with, not the greatest handle, he's really going to be able to pressure him, get into his chest, use his lower body. Very similar to Franz Wagner, who we'll actually watch a little bit of later. So good at defending with that lower body, using his hips and his lower torso to bump guys off their spots, and his length of pressure. That's going to be what Sochan does very impressively in the league, and that is a valuable, valuable skill. So that was the first game. As we saw, like this was a very impressive defensive game from Sochan. Very few mistakes, only a couple nitpicks. Just kind of we're getting a feel for his scheme. We're getting a feel for his defensive strengths. And in this game, we're definitely going to look at some of his more defensive weaknesses, as Oklahoma presented a lot of problems for Sochan as well. We can kind of see them arising already, where Sochan is on an island playing very tight. And again, like as an on-ball defender, Sochan is going to be best when he can have a bit of a cushion, use his lower body, and not have to rely on his feet and his hips, because we can again see the kind of slow hip turn here. We'll go frame by frame. Again, it's just like he has to retreat, and he's not instantly flipping his hips like a lot of really elite defenders. He is able to kind of bother here, and this is probably an overhelp by Kendall Brown. But he does allow a step, and this is going to be a trend in this Oklahoma game, which I think is a really good example of him not being super suitable. Actually, just kidding. I screwed that up. There is another clip from the Kansas game. Which one was? Yes. Is this last clip from the Kansas game? Oh, okay. We're not done with the Kansas game. Just kidding. So that clip, we'll table that for later. That is the first clip of the next game. So we're going to continue some of the awesome Kansas defense, where this is kind of like a nothing play in terms of impact, but he is so disciplined helping one pass away and not over helping. A lot of defenders, like actually we saw in that last play, Kendall, like his teammate Kendall Brown, can be prone to overhelps when there are already 1-2 defenders in position. Whereas Sochan here is in perfect position to help the helper on a potential laydown, and his big man is able to contest by himself. He doesn't really need to help here. Just a very advanced, like, mental kind of thing that you see Sochan do routinely and impressively. Again, this is another kind of example of that scheme where it's like, is Sochan getting beat here baseline? Because it does look like his reaction's a little slow. But this also does seem to be what Baylor is coaching him to do, to funnel him into the help here, so Sochan can move and recover. So, again, that is the Kansas game done. I don't believe we have any more sneaky Kansas clips in here. We do not. So, before we get into some of the struggles, Sochan executing another fundamental concept of off-ball defense, which is like the weak side zone, where there is help on the strong side, on the ball side, and you have one defender kind of watching two players. And Sochan's going to be unbelievable here in the league because of his length, because of his instincts. You see him kind of swiping this ball with his length, guarding two defenders at once. Like, there's not an easy pass here because Sochan is so quick to react and is so active in length. And, like, this is something that great wing defenders make a career off of. Like, here's Paul George doing a similar thing where, again, he has two defenders on the weak side, is able to make an immediate closeout to one, stop a drive, and this possession continues, and PG has kind of a second X out where he makes the correct decision one more time and forces a pass as well. So, like, these are common NBA situations that are very high leverage, and Sochan is going to be able to execute them, I truly do believe, which, again, is very, very valuable for him. Again, we're going to see he's not, like, the greatest pick-and-roll defender in the world, where I don't think, like, asking him to defend and drop or whatever is really going to be something he does a ton. Like, it's going to be part of his toolkit, but, like, the reaction is a bit slow here. Like, this is actually pretty, like, egregiously slow to where I'm, like, as a scout, I'm, like, kind of confused as to what is happening here, because it is, like, absolutely inconsistent with, like, the rest of his tape. So it could just be a lapse. Lapses happen, especially for young players and even young, very good defenders, where he's just, like, not nearly fast enough to get over there. And, there's an easy layup he gives up there. So, again, like, taking things like this and plays like this is important to kind of weigh the rest of the body. Like, I definitely weigh the consistency of his off-ball defense being good more than, this one play being lapse. But it is important to watch for sure. Again, we see this is another kind of interesting missed read, and we see, like, a limitation for his off-ball defense. Like, his big space ground coverage isn't that amazing, and when I say that, I mean, like, can you really take away two players at once, and can you read, like, a two-pass away rotation when you are on a different side of the court? So we see here someone's guarding the corner, and there's kind of a pass in against the mismatch, and Sochan needs to be here early to take away this play, and he obviously is a little bit late. He jumps, and Oklahoma gets a wide open shot. Like, this is late, and in the NBA, these rotations become even tighter. I'm going to show you an example of this rotation done well by Devin Vassell, who is one of the best defensive prospects in recent memory, and someone who I believe is going to be an All-NBA defender soon enough. Like, a very, very similar situation where there is a mismatch here. Watch how like Vassell is already lurking before this pass is even thrown, and then is able to intercept the pass and make a deflection on it as well. He is lurking so early, whereas we go back to Sochan's clip, he is not lurking so early. Like, the pass is being thrown, he doesn't react until the ball's in the air, and then that's just too late. Because of Sochan's instincts and early reactions, like, I think this is something he gets better at when he gets coached. But it is something to consider that I think the high-level tools that, like, make defensive player of the year level defenders, I just don't know if Sochan is exactly that. We're going to start to see some struggles on the ball. I think this is a good game to watch if anyone is, like, sold on him as a switch defender, because he just really struggles with quick guards. And, like, it isn't, like, a huge knock. Like, he is a very large dude. He is a wing forward interior defender. and he just doesn't have the foot speed or the hip quickness or the agility to stick with a quick guard. Like, he just can't turn his hips fast enough. He just physically cannot. So that's gonna. I mean, again, so when you have Sochan on the island against NBA guards, it's gonna be problematic, and we're gonna continue to see this in this game as well. Again, you see Sochan being physical in the post and getting a deflection. We've seen that play before. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just another example of his great instincts and his hand usage. Again, Sochan here. This is another kind of like not overhelp I really like. Sochan is very good executing the Baylor scheme. He is a scheme defender at the moment, which is not a bad thing. So Sochan is waiting for the first pass to one of these two to sprint out to close out. It never comes. He trusts his help, and they get the shot they want. So just very disciplined, smart help defense by Sochan, which can be a rarity for even the best young defenders. Again, like Sochan, like because of how his tools just aren't elite, because of his hips not being perfect, he's gonna have to be so perfect on his reactions. And he's great, but like this is a difficult pass, and Sochan is in good position. But he's just a tiny bit late moving to this backdoor cut, and those little windows are all the difference. But as we see on this play, Sochan's able to recover and make a pretty difficult block from behind, like on his second jump, because like I said, his timing is just so incredible. Like his hand placement and ability to see ball, get ball is very, very high level. Again, like Sochan, like you kind of have him ball watching here. Similar play to the last one, where this is even worse, where he gets beat bad, but his teammate kind of saves him. Again, like these are freshman things. Like these things are going to happen. And I think like what I'm looking at more here is not the lapse itself. It's more how he's recovering, and the recoveries just aren't fast enough. I actually should have brought in the clip. Like I think of someone like Patrick Williams, who had similar like mobility issues, but was really awesome recovering. And Sochan unfortunately just isn't, that level of recovery defender. It's okay. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. Again, just another simple possession where this is like a very NBA defense possession, where Sochan starts off guarding a dribble handoff big and is immediately sliding down to cut off this drive. Again, you cannot drive with Sochan one pass away because he will slide and cut you off. He stops advantages before they start, which is so valuable. That is the name of NBA defense. Again, he's guarding, he's denying the ball. Once again, this is the same help the helper rotation we saw him make in the Kansas game, where this guy slides down to guard the drive, and Sochan is in position to take away the layup pass. This is critical. And then he's able to close out. It's not a great closeout. I think his closeouts are kind of sloppy sometimes, but this is a good rotation, and he's like not really getting help from defenders like a Kinjo, like who just are very apathetic in nature. So I don't really knock that one too hard against him. I don't really have a good space for this clip. At least I couldn't think of one, but like Franz, I think has similar tools to Sochan. And like one thing Franz is already great at is nail defending. So the nail is this area right here, where drivers kind of have a blind spot. So Precious is driving in, and Franz is able to dig at the nail, which is what this is, and get a steal. You see Jason Tatum doing this all the time, Paul George, like we talked about before. And I expect this to be a big part of Sochan's defensive package at the next level. This is a play I really like, and something we see Sochan doing all the time that you may have caught in some of the plays that I just haven't brought up, is that he is always communicating. So Oklahoma's trying to set up a hammer action here, which is just kind of like a drive on one side and a flare screen on the other side. But Sochan sees it, calls it out, and even though it wasn't really a threat because the drive didn't work, Sochan is denying these plays before they have a chance to materialize, which again is very, very impressive, high-level stuff for a freshman. Again, like it is the little things. He is really like a little thing king. Like, so once again, super early on this drive, he knows he has an X out help, so we can be here and deter this drive. We continue to see Sochan showing consistency and doing the good little things. Unfortunately, this play, I believe. Actually, no. This play is like a decent one where Sochan is able to cut off this initial drive because he can give a cushion, and when he has a cushion, he can slide his feet and use his legs and his lower body. But when he's trying to quickly react to cover this this kind of pitch, he just doesn't have the foot speed to get around there and contest it. So the little things, the quickness of NBA guards are certainly going to give Sochan problems. Again, we see some good and some bad. We see Goldwire turning him. Like, Sochan is going to get turned by quick moves just because of the hips that we've been talking about. But, like, the verticality, the technique, the length, like, it's going to be hard for even NBA guards to shoot over this. Like, this is not going to be easy. And then the last clip we have, again, like, you just shouldn't be asking a guy of this size, unless he's, like, very, very special, to be defending guards on an island. Like, he doesn't have the foot speed, he doesn't have the hip quickness, he doesn't have the agility to be routinely stopping stuff like this. And this was a critical play in this game. And again, like, I don't really hold this against Sochan in such a high regard. Like, this is a very difficult play. But I do think it's, like, a good thing to know for a lot of people who seem sold on him as, like, a real switch defender. Those guys don't exist, really, and Sochan, unfortunately, is not one of them. But that's okay. As we've seen throughout this video, he has a lot of real defensive strengths in his interior rim protection, his awareness, his ability to take away options before they even materialize. I think that's really his biggest strength, is his ability to limit offensive options before they can even be a threat. And that is, like, what great NBA defenders do. It's not flashy, but it's very important. And while Sochan's offense is problematic, and maybe I'll talk about that in another video, but his defense is very, very good, and I expect him to be an impact defender from the second he steps on an NBA floor.